looking for is whether she is laterally balanced. What that means is if you imagine a motorcycle, like let's say she was going in a curve and she was a motorcycle, is she leaning to the inside or is she leaking to the outside? Okay, so she's not pulling on me, her shoulders are not leaking, her butt's not leaking. She is thinking forward, not out or in, okay? She has been trained for 3 years in this program, so she's not gonna be leaking a whole lot, okay? So, for example, her butt may come towards me if her nose looks to the outside. So when I feel her pulling on the rope, I may decide to push her hip out a little bit and teach the hip not to fall to the inside. That's gonna be one of our exercises. Or if she's looking to the outside and she's distracted, which she's not doing right now, the shoulder may be falling to the inside. And I may address the shoulder, I may put pressure on it and pick it up to remind her not to fall in. So ideally, if she is to be laterally balanced, she needs to have from her nose and her pole through the wither to her tail, she needs to have her body on the line of travel. A great result of lateral balance is usually a stretch in the neck and the dropping of the head down. So a stretching. So right there you see her pole starting to drop below her withers a little bit. That's telling me that she is laterally balanced. Horses have a hard time relaxing their top line and their neck and allowing their head to drop down low if they're up on anxiety or they're not balanced in their body. So right there you can see that she's not pulling on me, she's dropping her head down, she's lengthening her stride, and she's laterally balanced, okay? The other balance that we're gonna talk about is the vertical balance. So I'm gonna put my stick in front of her a little bit and ask her to come up and shift her weight back a little bit. There we go. Then I'm gonna ask her to lower her head. There we go. So I actually have a cue where I drop my hand, lower myself, I bring myself up, and she should bring herself up, okay? So you should be able to position the horse's head up or down, and also right and left for the lateral balance and some of the other maneuvers that we're gonna be doing. So now she's moving forward a little bit more in more of a passage. Good. Whenever the horse's pole drops below the withers, that shuts off the adrenaline pump. And so it helps them relax. It's also stretching their top line. So this is like a relaxing mode. The mode that I showed you earlier is more of a collecting power building mode right there. So this is like a collected trot right here. It's basically just the hind quarter yield into a forward motion. So don't overthink it. I'm gonna show you what that looks like. So basically you should be able to walk your horse on a circle. You should be able to step towards the horse's hindquarters and the horse yields the hindquarters and then you add forward to it. The point of this exercise is that you engage the inside hind leg, which is the one that's marked white, actually her left hind leg. So you can see it really well. She puts that foot right underneath her belly and then she pushes off of it forward. So it's important that you come from that exercise into the forward engagement and energy. So we're building power by engaging that inside hind leg underneath her. And the next thing we're doing is we're teaching her not to lean laterally to the inside, meaning she's not gonna be leaning in like a motorcycle with her hip. So if you have a horse that looks a lot to the outside with the nose and kind of drops the rib cage towards you and it feels like the horse is just kind of on top of you, when they're circling, or they're pulling on the lead line because their nose is away from you, we're gonna fix the nose by pushing the hip. If you have, let's say, 1,200 pounds of pressure of weight of the horse leaning towards you and the nose is away from you, you don't want to start pulling on the lead line and try to fix it that way, because if the horse's body is falling this way and the nose is that way, it's going to be very difficult for the horse to bring the nose towards you unless you push the rib cage and the hip away from you. So I would rather take, in her case, probably 950 pounds of weight and shift it away from me so that the nose can easily come towards me, and she'll give me slack in the lead line. So one of the good results of this is that you're going to start getting some slack in the lead line. The other positive thing is going to be the horse is going to align the spine on the line of travel. What that means is that from the nose to the tail, the horse is going to start positioning their whole body on the line of circle that you're on. And as a result of that, you're going to get slack in the rope, the horse is going to be more laterally balanced, and you're going to start engaging the left hind leg under the horse's body and start getting a little bit of lateral flexion to the inside like that, so you're going to start getting correct bend. Okay, so that's step number 1, the partial hind quarter yield engagement. Step number 2 is downward transitions by being at the shoulder with the horse at first. Eventually you can do it from distance, and backing the horse up into a really nice rhythmic 2-beat gait. Backup is a 2-beat gait. If your horse is doing a 4-beat backup, the horse does not have enough impulsion. That would look something like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. She almost even can't do it as a 4-beat gait, but if you'll notice, if your horse is a little on the lazy side or hasn't really learned this yet, they may not have a really good quality backup. The other thing I do when I train this is I'll take my treat and I will reinforce a little bit of vertical flexion, just having her nose tucked into like this position towards her chest. So in step 2, you're going to learn how to do this. You're going to learn how to teach your horse to have a nice 2-beat rhythmic backup off of the tool cue. The reason for the tool cue is that once we get from distance, as we go to higher levels in the posture focused training, we should be able to, let's say, create a shortening, which is another step in the posture focused training, from distance by applying pressure right here in front of the chest. Do you see how she understands that the stick is a wall and a boundary? See how she's slowing down right there? That's shortening her stride and it's shortening her frame. Sideways. Typically, I'll teach it at the shoulder like this, out of the partial hindquarter engagement or hindquarter yield. So I will move her hip over, and then I will just tap with my stick a little bit further forward, get a little sideways out of it, and if they go forward, I will correct right there. Okay, so I'm going to push her hip, and then once I push her hip, I'm going to move my stick forward, and I'm going to tap her rib cage and get the side pass. Once I can do the side pass at the shoulder, I will do it from distance, and I will add a little bit of forward to it. So I'm going to come more from behind and get like a little bit of a leg yield. There we go, good girl. Add forward. The reason for the leg yield is to teach the horse, again, not to lean to the inside of the circle like a motorcycle. It's also to engage the inside hind leg and eventually create a little bit of lateral and even some slight vertical flexion as they get more advanced. Good. And I eventually train canter departures out of this because it creates a lot of lift through the shoulder and the withers, and eventually gives me a little bit of collection in those departures. A little more forward, right there. Good girl. Okay, so what's happening here is this inside hind leg is stepping deeper underneath her body. So a shoulder yield is basically teaching the horse to yield the shoulder away from you, but keep the nose with you. So I'm going to steady the nose. I'm going to tap the shoulder, steady the nose a little bit. There we go. See how the nose is coming towards me? And then I'm going to give her a treat towards the point of her shoulder right here to reinforce that flexion. So she's walking on a circle to the right, and her nose is to the left, and the shoulders are moving away from me to the right. So that's like a counter bend, like that. The other shoulder yield you can start working on is where she is going to have the correct bend. So I'm tapping her right shoulder. I'm blocking her nose with my finger here and the handle part of the stick. And I'm on the outside of the circle, okay? So I'm lifting her shoulder. See that? Good girl. So I'll say good girl. And again, I'll give her the treat towards this point of her shoulder. See that? See how she's bringing the nose there now? A little bit more nose towards me. That's good prep for hunches in and half passes towards you. And then you can switch it to just having a little bit of flexion to the inside, a little bit of creating bend to the inside. So this exercise is also good for your liberty circles. There we go. So I can kind of trot a circle with her and just remind her shoulder every now and then to come towards me. You have to be careful that they don't step on you. So if they get on top of me, I'll put the stick back here. But just create a little bit of inside bend like that. Good girl. You can see that Marvel here is offering a stretch all on her own. I'm basically not asking for it right now, but that's you know, it's been her go-to. They fall in love with it because it feels so good to them. I'm mirroring that in my body by just bending over a little bit. As I started the standstill, and I teach my horses to lower their head by pressing down behind their ears right here. First, I bring their nose towards me laterally, and then I push down. And like that, just ask them to soften all the way to the ground. And then I will usually give them a treat right here. Eventually, I can wean off of the halter and just start with my hand here and just slide down. And then as I'm sliding down, I start pressing down and then ask them to come down. I will start adding the walk to it. So I will ask her to walk. The way I use my gas pedal is the stick comes up like this towards above her butt, and I would tap her butt on the top if she didn't go, not to confuse it with any lateral cues. And then I will basically just first slow my feet down, stop, isolate everything, lower her head, good girl, give her a treat down there, and then walk forward again. And I will repeat this process. I will just kind of lower myself down towards the ground, just bend over like this, lower my hand down, and then I will stop and I will bring her head down and give her a treat. Good. And maybe start walking while they're down. And I may use my hand on top and help them with it too. Right there. There, good. Sometimes they brace against that. There we go. Good. And then rub them. So you can do it on the top of their neck and eventually wean off of it by just sliding your hand down the lead line and then lowering their head while they're walking. Good, good. And then eventually you add more and more steps. One of my other cues for this is that I will point the handle part of the stick towards the horse's nose, and I will push them out away from me, because so many times after we do a lot of the lateral work, like pushing the hip away from us, like the partial hindquarter engagement. The nose is towards us. So for me to go from something like this to the stretch, I would basically push her nose away from me, send her forward, and just by her getting straighter in her body and not really leaking out anywhere, oftentimes she'll drop her neck because she's lateral. And if she didn't, I would just go back to like right there, she's not doing it, there. I would get closer to her, see that? As I get closer, she knows to reach down and low. Now the point of the stretch is to lengthen her top line, relax her, drop the pole below the withers to shut the adrenaline pump off, and also to engage her hind legs. So eventually I add a little bit of energy to it. That's a good stretch right there. And see how much energy I can add without the head going up. That's a really good stretch right there. Good girl. And then if I was to give her a treat, good. I would come towards her and I would give her the treat down low. And I like to have her nose in front of the vertical. Trying to show it where you can see it right there. I don't want the nose behind the vertical because I want her nose reaching out so her feet can go out, lengthening the stride. So the collecting exercises are transitions, and that is transitions from like a walk to a trot to a walk to a trot. So I do a lot of that, like getting my horse to really transition crisp, or like almost a walk, really slow it down, and then really send it forward quickly, and then slow it down. See how her hind legs came underneath her? And it can be from a trot to a canter, or a stop to a canter. Ooh. Or it may even be a backup to a canter. So any kind of transitions like that are engaging maneuvers basically, and they help achieve collection. For the lengthening, I like to be on a big circle. So ideally like a stick length distance or more, just a tad more. I can still reach him with the swooshy part of my stick. And now my upper body is gonna mirror what I need him to do in his body. I want the head to go down a little bit for this. So I'm gonna bend over just a tad, and then I'm gonna raise my stick up, and I'm gonna create a little bit of swooshy energy there. Good boy. He added just a little bit of energy. And this is one of those things where you go from, 1 mile per hour to maybe 1.2 miles per hour. Like you're not looking to go from 1 mile per hour to 20 in one stride. I'm looking for sweepiness of the stride. There, he's lengthening the stride a little bit. Looking for more energy of the stride without causing anxiety. That's a good walk right there. And watch where his back feet are landing. Are they landing in the same spot as the front feet? Are they landing behind it, or are they landing in front of the hoof prints of the front feet? Right now he's landing about 2 inches in front of the hoof prints. That's beautiful. That means he's really bending his hocks and getting his hind feet underneath himself. And try to get the stretch. That's a good energy there. Beautiful energy. So I step with a little more energy. That's a beautiful walk right there. Good job. Good. And I'll give him a treat. Again, we need the stretch for the lengthening. So we taught him how to take a treat on the ground. Hopefully he'll find it and help him find it. He'll have to reach a little bit. And I like that nose kind of in front of him a little bit. His front feet are going to try to land underneath the nose. So if the nose is kind of thinking out a little bit, he's going to probably want to reach with those feet a little bit further forward. And that's another way how to get the lengthening. Imagine 10 numbers, 1 being a slow jog and 10 being a really fast, big, extended trot. I can play with those numbers, and depending on the height of my stick and the energy in my body, I can just play with those different energies. I usually like to put them on like a smaller circle and kind of slow them down, drop my energy, and then just kind of spread my arms open, raise the whip, create a little bit of energy behind him. Try to maintain the energy from the canter back into the trot. I try not to shut them down really quickly so that they don't drop their energy. If they break gait to a canter, that's okay. Just keep that energy going. Just change the gait from the 3-beat to the 2-beat again. Good boy, I like that. I tried to go to him with the treat. Good boy. Instead of spiraling him in towards me, because I want him thinking straightness. Okay, so a lot of you wanted to know how I taught Mustang Marvel to have that nice posture and have her neck up and her nose on a vertical. So this is where I started teaching it. Just take the horse to the same spot on the fence and just shorten the stride a little bit. Good boy. And ask for the nose to tuck just a little bit. And immediately go back to the walk so he doesn't think it's for a standstill. So he's gonna learn when the stick comes in front of him. There, he kind of pushed on it a little bit, so I stopped him. When the stick comes in front of him, he's gonna learn to shorten and get tall. I want to lengthen his stride, and then I want to shorten his stride, and then I want to lengthen his stride, and I do this on the fence, not a canter. Half halt to a trot. There. See how he kind of, see there how he's shortening, but he's still moving his knees? I'm looking for the knees to start lifting. There. Don't want a canter, so I'll push him out laterally or do a half halt. And I just play with that. See how I'm shortening him and lengthening him? And you can even use 2 sticks. There, good boy. Work the impulsion forward, send it forward, and then shorten it. Send it forward and then shorten it. Send it forward with the gas pedal and then shorten it right here on the chest. And just get a moment where the horse shortens the stride or even stops, lifts the knee a little bit in the front. And you can go down the fence and then shorten it. So there, good boy. There was a hop in the front, and I said good boy when his butt started coming up, not in the trot. Good boy. So there he had a trotting rhythm. The left hind foot is reaching deeper underneath her body while I'm bringing her front end closer to me, and the nose is to the inside, okay? And you can see that in this maneuver, her scapula right here in her shoulder is very flat. So like oftentimes people tell me I don't know what to look for. What I'm looking for in the shoulder for it to be lifted and not falling to the inside, that it's as flat as possible, especially right here in the area of the point of the shoulder, okay? If I see like a grapefruit size bone sticking out, that means the shoulder's falling in, like if I did this with my shoulder or that with my scapula, versus when I pick my scapula, I make it completely flat, okay? So the flat scapula and the lifted inside shoulder is usually a result of getting the inside hind leg deeper underneath her body. Good girl. Good job. So for hunches out, what that means to me is that the horse is moving the hip away from me, basically. So I'm on a straight line, and you can follow the fence. You can put yourself between the horse and the fence. And you're asking for the shoulder to stay with you, but the hip go away from you. She's kind of overdoing it a little bit, but that's okay. Again, it's not about perfection. It's about mobility. So if my belly button points away from her, and I get my stick on her outside shoulder, trying to block her nose here, so the nose goes away from me, basically, I should be able to get hunches out like that, and I should be able to switch hunches in towards me like this. So that's hunches in and switch to hunches out. So my belly button away from her and my belly button towards her. I mean that way in front of her, so that her hip is coming towards me and her hips going away from me. And you can do that in the trot, and you can do that in the canter. So hunches out, hunches in, hunches out. Good girl. Give her a treat. We're gonna come back again. Okay, come on. Right lead into a left lead. There we go, I like that. So her shoulder wasn't getting on top of me as much. Key access to the power, to the engine of the horse, because they're collecting exercises. So now this is a walking half pass to the left. The inside shoulder's lifted. The right hind leg is stepping deeper underneath her body, and she is carrying more weight in the in the moment that she steps underneath her belly and then pushes off of it. That's like if she was doing squats in the gym, okay? And the more you practice those maneuvers and build those muscles, the sooner the horse is going to start using those muscles even when you're not in a session with them, which is the cool thing about it. This is when I talk about posture focused training. I am training this horse to have a good posture and strengthen the muscles that need to be strengthened, not the wrong muscles. So start on the fence so the horse can't go left, and just ask for a few steps of the hip going away from you like that, okay? So on this fence, I would start with hunches in, and then ask the horse to step towards. And you can use 2 sticks for it. There we go. You can ask for the front end to come more if you need to. There we go. Good girl. And just come a few steps off of the fence. I like to start on the fence. Once you get that, you can do it in the trot. Just come down the fence. Come down the fence, ask for the hunches in. Good girl. And then switch, go away. Need to push her hip, step into her. I'm kind of keeping an eye on her. Good girl. Over my shoulder. Good job. So the last thing missing is now flying lead changes. So we're gonna go try those now. She's just learning them. girl. So we got a couple lead changes there, just off of those half passes. So that covers the overview of posture focused training of all of the 10 steps.